All right, Jeff Zimmerman here with former amateur sensation Magic Mansour making his pro debut May 18th in his hometown of San Diego at the Pachanga Arena. And man, good to talk to you. I'm excited to get to know you, your background. I know you've had an amazing amateur career, and you got a hell of a story. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm doing great, Jeff. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, man. I'm always excited to talk to guys that are pro debuts or getting started, and because boxing is such a crazy sport, right? Everybody has like a unique path, and I know you do as well. You're the first one in your family born in America, families from Iraq, got started very young in the sport, had some frustrations, wanted to kind of have that one-on-one training, but you kind of had to, get a little better, I guess. But just talk about your upbringing and, just the family and how you got going in this sport.
Of course, yes. So I started boxing when I was 8 years old, but I didn't have my first fight until I was 14. Great coaches around, but they always told me to take the classes. But it was very frustrating for me, growing up. I always wanted to fight. As soon as I stepped into the boxing gym, I left the pool party at the age of 8 years old to go to the boxing gym with my uncle and my cousin Julius. And as soon as, since that day, I always say my biggest blessing in life is that I knew exactly what I wanted to do at the age of 8 years old. But I didn't get my first fight until I was 14. It took some time to get my first fight, but as soon as I did, man, like it was amazing. I remember I dropped my opponent my first fight because I was so excited to just finally step in the ring and prove myself. And since then, just been staying very active. Got to travel the world with the USA team. That was always a great experience, and now it's time to transition into the pros.
Yeah, so I've heard, guys like you, 8 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, you immediately take to it. Um, what Tito Mercado is a guy I've interviewed from LA, Southern California, making his way up the ranks. Same kind of thing, different path a little bit, but fell in love with it. What was it about the sport at 8 years old that you knew this is what you wanted to do?
I always, growing up, I always wanted to be different. Growing up as a Middle Eastern boxer, my family is very deep into business. We own a lot of businesses in San Diego. Being Chaldean, being a boxer was difficult in the beginning. I always had my Uncle Jack behind me to support, but my parents didn't want me to box. Until all the way up until I made the USA team. They were trying to pull me out of it. I almost had to cry, to go to national tournaments. And I remember my dad would be like, "You got to stop doing this. Boxing, look, we watch it on TV. People get hurt, people get knocked out." And I said, "Dad, this is what I love to do." He said, "I want you in business. I want you to become a doctor, like a lot of Middle Easterns are. A lot of them, get into business at an early age. But for me, I just wanted to be different. So when I walked into a boxing gym at a young age, it was just love at first sight. I remember when I first walked in on the first day, when I went with my uncle Jack, he didn't let me train. I was just watching, the pro athletes. It was in a farm and like in a big tent, and I was watching a lot of the pro athletes, train, hit the bag, and I went there to work out. And he said, "No, no, no, you're not doing anything today. You're just gonna watch."
Hmm.
And I was watching. I was upset at the time. Didn't get a chance to work out that day. But as soon as my cousin finished training, my uncle looked at me and said, "You want to start boxing?" And I said, "Absolutely." And since then, I never missed a day.
What was Uncle Jack a fighter, or what was his love for the fight game? Where did that come from?
So this is the crazy story, Jeff. So my uncle Jack was the first one to be a boxer in my generation, my family, and my family generation. And like I said, being Middle Eastern and being a fighter is not easy. So his parents never supported, him fighting. I remember when he wanted to turn pro and start his professional career, they pulled him out of it. And he
Hmm.
said, "You know what? When I have a son, I'm going to put him in the sport of boxing." He had a son. He put him in the sport of boxing. My cousin Julius, and I tagged along as a nephew, and he's like a second father to me.
Wow. So, well, without Uncle Jack, we're not having this conversation.
Absolutely. He brought me into the gym. Yeah, absolutely. He brought me into the gym when I was 8 years old, and it's been great. And like I said, my parents didn't want me to do this in the beginning until I made, the USA team or won my first nationals, and then they were like, you know what? You're actually very good at this. And now my dad is with me everywhere I go. My mom supports me to the fullest. She cooks for me every single day. I go through 4 outfits a day training. So shout
Wow.
out to my mom, man.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I read that Prince Nassim Hamed, who is a fighter that I watched when I was younger. I was a Sugar Ray Leonard fan going back to my era in the 80s, but I remember Prince Nassim was just electrifying and took over boxing for a while. He's a guy that you saw early on and really liked.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Prince Nassim Hamed was a king to the Middle Eastern world in the sport of boxing. He had taken over, and I love how he was so entertaining, and at the same time he was a winner. He would win, he would entertain people. He was great, and he definitely led a great path, opened up a great path for the younger generation.
What were some of the challenges? You mentioned it a couple times, being Middle Eastern, your first of your family, born in America, family from Iraq. What were some of those challenges, like maybe going to boxing tournaments or going around? Like, do you feel like you were underestimated or overlooked just because of where your family's from?
Absolutely. There's not many like us from that region, from the Middle East, from my parents from Iraq. So it was definitely a different ball game in the beginning. Like I said, it was tough just to get there alone. And I remember people would tell my parents, people would tell my uncle, like, why are you putting your son into fighting? Like it's a dangerous sport. Why don't you just have him go to business with you? Take over the businesses. Nobody really agreed with the pathway in the beginning, but now everybody supports very heavily.
Yeah, well, like I said, man, you're a good-looking kid, so I can see why your parents didn't want you to get marked up. But 2023 or 2022 National Golden Gloves, 2023 National Golden Glove champion. You've been to two Olympic trials. 23, going to be 24, I think, this summer. So, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so you got guys now, the Ryan Garcias of the world, Devin Haney's are already into their career. Do you feel behind at all, behind the eight ball, or do you feel like you're right where you need to be at this stage?
No, I definitely don't feel behind because when I was like 20 years old, I wanted to turn professional so bad. I remember I told my uncle, like, I'd call him from the Olympic Training Center. I'd be like, I just want to turn pro, I just want to turn pro. And he'd tell me, the pros will always be there. I want you to have a very deep amateur pedigree. And that's, I feel like having a very good amateur background, a deep amateur pedigree, traveling internationally and fighting, guys overseas that are 28, 29, 30 years old gets you the right experience for when it's time to merge over to the professionals. So people turn pro at a young age, but for me, when I was fighting overseas, international, I believe that elite level fighting overseas is even just as tough as the professionals.
Yeah, and there could be a case to be made too. Guys like Lomachenko, Triple G, who had hundreds of amateur fights. Triple G, it took a little bit longer, but Loma was fast tracked, as a professional. Do you hope to, because of that amateur pedigree, you talk about maybe be fast tracked a little bit as a pro?
I mean, yeah. At first, my first pro debut will be a 4 rounder, but I even told my coaches from the beginning, I don't mind starting off as a 6 rounder. I feel like I have a lot of experience in the sport of boxing. I have a great team behind me. I got 4 different coaches. I got great support system, and at the end of the day, like I said, I have a lot of experience. So it's not about being fast tracked. It's about being moved in the right direction, and I feel like I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I noticed one of your coaches, Robert Garcia, who just had a big weekend last weekend with Virgil Ortiz and Jose Ramirez. I actually interviewed him prior to the fight, right after the Ryan Garcia Devin Haney fight, and I know he always has a top stable, maybe not big names yet, like yourself, that will soon be. But what's it like working with a guy like Robert Garcia, who's been to the mountaintop and back?
Now you're talking about Robert Garcia. He was Virgil
Yeah, is that
Hunter.
not the same?
No, Robert Garcia, the coach that I'm with, he was Virgil Hunter's assistant coach.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, there's two of them, but the Robert Garcia is that the one that works with me. He was Virgil Hunter's assistant coach, and he used to work with Amir Khan. He worked with Andre Berto. He worked with Andre Ward. He
Okay.
worked with a lot of people in that camp, and he shows me Amir Khan is one of my favorite boxers as well, and he shows me pictures of him in Amir Khan's corner. And there's fights where I'm studying, Amir Khan's fight before I would fight in the amateurs, and I look and my coach Robert's in the corner. So it's definitely great to have Coach Robert. He was a great asset that we brought on a couple years ago.
My apologies to your Robert Garcia. I did not realize that. But listen, man, you're 5'10", 135. You're a big lightweight. Um, Ryan Garcia, kind of similar build, big lightweight. What advantages that does that give you, and what's your style? What kind of fighter are you?
I would say, I'm an all around boxer. Before I used to just be, fighting on the outside, moving, punching, and moving. A lot of people know me by my footwork. I always looked up to like Lomachenko's footwork. He has great footwork. But I would say I'm more of a boxer, but I can also fight on the inside.
Okay, okay. Speaking of the fighters out there today, have you been in the ring with some of the pros around 135, 40, 47? Who have you sparred with?
Definitely. I've sparred with forgot what his name. I believe his name is Ray. He's fighting a pit bull. He's fighting Pitbull in this next upcoming fight. The Saudis are hosting in August.
Okay,
Yeah, I believe his name is Ray Valenzuela or something like that.
okay.
I've sparred with him before. I've sparred with other people in the past, but prospects and up and coming people during the Olympic camp at the Olympic Training Center. I sparred with Bruce Carrington all the time. I sparred with multiple people overseas that had a lot of talent. I sparred with Olympic gold medalists. I remember Galal Yafai from England. I sparred with him, in the past. So I definitely have sparred with some Olympic gold medalists and some top level professionals.
Well, you mentioned Bruce Carrington. I mean, he stayed in the amateurs a long time as well. So, and he's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, Bruce is my guy, man. Bruce is a great guy, and I always knew he had that professional, style. And me and him were bumping heads at the Olympic Training Center because, like, I was the Olympic alternate at the time, so him and I would just spar each other, bump heads all the time. But right after that, we just clicked, man. We're very cool now, and honestly, he's doing great in the pros, and I'm proud of him.
Yeah, let me ask you. You're not with a promoter. You're fighting on this big top rank card, which is, Navarrete and Barichek. We talked about Giovanni Santillan, who's on the card as the co-feature, one of your buddies from San Diego, who I talked to the other day. Why not be with a promoter to launch your career?
I'm currently not signed with anybody, but whatever makes sense. We At the end of the day, I'm boxing with a passion. I'm not looking for small paychecks that I could sign and just be led on onto things. I'm boxing with a passion. As you can see, thanks to God, I come from a family that has money. I box because I love it. Not because I have to, but because I love it. And doing it from the heart is what got me to where I am today. But not signing to any promoters. At the end of the day, I got a great team behind me, putting me on this huge undercard with Top Rank. And I sold a lot of tickets for Top Rank. I sold over 1,000 tickets, and there's going to be a lot of my fans, a lot of family members there. I'm working with very big sponsorships for this fight. So this is a 4 round fight, but there's going to be a lot of fans there, watching, and definitely a lot of eyes because I have a very big following on social media. So, having that following helps, definitely helps. But if a promoter approaches me and the deal makes sense at the end of the day, I'm not doing this just for the money. Money is great, but I'm doing this to build a legacy and to build a name for myself and to become a world champion.
Well, listen, man, I know you're fighting on Top Rank's card. I know they got some of the best matchmakers, if not the best in the business. Bruce Trampler, Brad Goodman. So you're getting a good start, on a Top Rank show, who've built some of the best in the world. But listen, Jeff Zimmerman here with Jonny Mansour. We'll wrap up here in a few, man. I really appreciate it. Is that your family property you're on? You mentioned the
Yeah,
background.
yes, it is. It's my backyard.
That's your backyard. Wow.
Yeah.
Let me ask, since I mentioned I lived in San Diego, is that by SeaWorld or Mission Bay or where are you at?
No, we're on Mount Helix.
Oh,
Yeah. We live in La Mesa.
okay. All right. Very
Yeah,
nice.
we have the whole view of East County.
Well, not too shabby, man. Yeah, you're not like most boxers out there, that's for sure.
But
But
I want to add, I appreciate Top Rank for presenting me this great opportunity. Top Rank believed in me, believed in me to sell a lot of tickets and bring on a great fight for the fans. And I appreciate them for putting me on this undercard. It's going to be a great event.
yeah, no doubt. The card's on ESPN too, which is great. But let me ask you, man, you seem like a fight fan. You bleed boxing. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. You just had the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney fight. G- Give me what your quick thoughts on the fight were, and then what's come after the fight with the whole PEDs and Ryan and so forth.
I always believed in Ryan. What's crazy is Ryan Garcia and I are friends on social media, and him and I were on Instagram Live before he announced the fight, and he was asking me what I was doing, and then I was asking him what he was doing, and then the next day he announced that big fight. He's a great guy outside the ring. Um, I don't really believe, what they said about him being on steroids or whatever they said that he was on. I truly don't believe it. If it's true, there's nothing that he could do. There's nothing that his team could do. But I believe he showed a lot of heart, and I believe he pulled off like the new generation Muhammad Ali, where Muhammad Ali used to make his opponents think he was crazy. I believe Ryan Garcia did that, but not by going to someone's house and shooting in front of his house. He did that by shooting shots through social media. So he's very smart. He fooled the world, and he definitely, I wouldn't say pulled off an upset, but did what he had to do to beat Devin Haney.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of unknowns at this point, but it was a hell of a fight, that's for sure. And I guess we'll see how things play out.
Yeah,
What
Devin showed a lot of heart, but Ryan Garcia, he looked great. He brought his A+ performance and he did what he had to do. And I hope they didn't underestimate him because if they did, that's the reason why they lost.
have you shared the ring with Ryan at all? Have you guys mixed it up at all?
No, I would love to someday. I definitely would love to someday. But I've shared the ring with his younger brother, Sean Garcia. I used to get invited by the Canelo team to go over there and spar with Sean back at the time at the Canelo gym in San Diego. And then they moved over to a different state, moved with different coaches. They split ways with the Canelo team. So I still see the Canelo team in San Diego. We still spar with other fighters that they have there, but Ryan and I have never shared the ring. We're friends outside the ring, but I definitely would love to share the ring with him someday.
Yeah, you mentioned he went to another team. I'm here in Dallas, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned, so I know Derek James very well, and saw Ryan at his media day prior to that fight with Devin. But let me ask you, you talk about Canelo. You've been in the gym with him, at least have seen him. Um, what are your thoughts? I mean, there was a lot of fireworks yesterday. Oscar obviously had a prepared statement. Was not too happy with Canelo, and I wouldn't say it came close to blows, but they both were standing there, face to face. What were your thoughts on that, Canelo? What are your thoughts on the fight come Saturday against Munguia?
You know, I believe Canelo. I believe Canelo is currently the face of boxing. And he's has a great skill set. And I've seen his team, man. He has a great team behind him. His base is very strong. So I think he still has, the skill set, the tools, the durability to defeat Jaime Munguia. I'm predicting a knockout. I would say sixth, seventh round knockout by Canelo. But yeah, man, I've seen him in person. He's a great guy outside the ring, and he definitely works hard.
So you're predicting a knockout, but obviously Munguia throws a lot of punches. You think it's going to be like a counter, or he's just going to be the ring IQ maybe a little bit too much for Jaime?
I think it's too much for Jaime. I don't think Munguia, has ever faced someone near the level that Canelo is at. And I think it's going to be a little bit too much for him when once he steps in front of him. And Canelo has a lot of power, a lot of power. So once he lands a few shots, Munguia is going to start respecting his power, and that's when he's going to just clean the house.
Now you mentioned being at his gym. Do you and Canelo ever maybe not share the ring, but talk, have conversations about boxing?
Oh yeah, he's definitely given me a few words of advice when I was sparring with Ryan Garcia's younger brother. He was giving me some great words of advice. Same with Eddie Reynoso. Eddie's a great guy, but I've trained beside him. Of course, never have I sparred him, but hey, you never know. You never know what the future holds.
Yeah.
I got the
How
height,
long?
so
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I got the height, so if I just put on a little bit more weight, I'll be able to move up. That's my goal. I want to start at 135, but be able to move up as I go on with my career.
I was just going to ask you, where do you see yourself? You're 23, going to be 24, but where do you think you'll eventually end up?
I believe the highest that I'll go, I would say like 154. I would say I'm gonna start off, in the 130s, 135, and then down the line move up to 140. Might move up to 140 soon though. My body's, been developing, and I feel much stronger. But I'm gonna stick to the 130s for now. My goal is to capture, a world title in the 130s, and then I wouldn't mind moving up to the 140s and 147. As an amateur, I was fighting at 125, and then I
Wow.
moved up to 139. Weighing 134 pounds, fighting in international tournaments, winning silver medal, and then I fought in the national Golden Gloves, weighing like 135, 136. I couldn't even put on more weight. I was eating as much as I can, fighting guys coming down from 155, 160, and I was weighing like 136, fighting bigger guys. But my height, my skill set, definitely plays a role. It helps a lot, and yeah, so I wouldn't mind moving up. Especially my sparring partners are always bigger guys.
Wow. Wow. I can't wait to watch you get started. What is your ultimate goal in the sport? Where do you see, what are you looking for?
My goal is to become a world champion. In the amateurs, my goal is to become number one in the country, and I accomplished that, thank God. And now my goal as a professional is to become a world champion, and that's the goal. I don't want to say multiple divisions because I want to conquer one division first and then go on from there. But I'm 23 years old, and I got a great team behind me. I got a great fan base. A lot of Middle Easterns support me very heavily, especially the Chaldeans in San Diego. So at the end of the day, I got all the support. All thanks to God, and I just want to grow as much as I can. Like I said, I do this for the passion. I do this from the heart. So my goal is to become the best that Jonny could be.
And I read too, Jonny, that you want to be to your people what Manny Pacquiao has been to the Philippines.
Absolutely, man. The support that the Middle Easterns have is amazing. I mean, 95% of my fan base that's going to the fights are all Middle Easterns. So to be honest with you, Manny Pacquiao was a big inspiration to me with how he'd go to his country and be a country hero. So that's my goal. Going to Iraq someday and opening up a gym in Iraq. Opening up some facilities out there and just building a better future for the younger generation to come.
What should we expect, Jonny? May 18th in your hometown. Like you said, you're going to have a lot of fans there. Pachengo Arena, a top ranked show. They're going to have a lot of people there. Great card. What should we expect May 18th?
Expect, a magic show.
Knockout in the pro debut?
I don't like to predict knockouts. I do have, the power to do so, but at the end of the day, listen to my team, listen to my coaches, listen to what they have to say. Come out with a great game plan and just be the best I could be. But at the end of the day, make sure to put on a plus performance.
All right, you heard it here. If you want to see Jonny Mansour, the Magic, make his pro debut, former amateur sensation, future star of boxing, got a great story behind him. Looks like he's on the rise, ready to take over boxing, man. It's great to meet you. Great to, get to know you. And I can't wait to just follow your career.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. And I'm looking forward to making my pro debut. May 18th, San Diego. Let's get it.
All right, man. We'll do this again soon. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Thank you.